Oh. Yeah. Okay. She wants us to start. Alright. Good afternoon. If we could get everyone seated, we're going to start the afternoon program. I think we're good. Do you want to start?
Welcome back to the afternoon portion of our festival.
Just keep going.
My name is Riley Sherbinin, and this is my friend Tia Mala. As we explore our roots and gain inspiration from the past, we can consider our future. Peter Verigan
Oh,
Chistakov was a dedicated Doukhobor leader with a vision for the future. He organized the Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ, an organization that has kept our spiritual family progressing towards peace and has kept us together as a spiritual family. This year we celebrate 80 years for the USCC. Let's celebrate Chistakov and today's visionaries by singing a spiritually uplifting song that was dedicated to him so many years ago. Can everyone please rise for the congregational singing of Proslavляем Тебя, Покровитель?
The Kootenai Men's Choir has been singing and participating in many community events in Trail, Grand Forks, and Castlegar. They enjoy getting together as a group to sing. Singing hymns and folk songs keeps our culture and heritage alive and well. We look forward to hear what they have prepared for us today. In a few minutes, apparently. If Mike Canigan is in the crowd, your choir is waiting for you on stage. Yeah, that's the hold up. Once the choir is assembled, they'll start. Okay. And we now present the long-anticipated Kootenai Men's Choir.
Good afternoon. I have to apologize. We're a bit late. Братья и сестры, молодежь, все приезжие гости. Благодарим вас с первым фестивалем. Мы надеемся, что вы с этого дня возьмете что-то нужного, что-то мы должны сделать, улучшить нашу духовную работу. И мы, я думаю, время пришло нам, чтобы за время взяться. Let us not take our heritage for granted. Let us not become too complacent and content with our material well-being and carefree lifestyle. Let us not turn away from the spiritual compass that has been entrusted to us. We have a compass, we have a map. Together, we can work as a community of individuals cooperating freely for the benefit of all. Наш первый стих мы споем о пионере правды вечной. The hymn is our spiritual, it's about our spiritual pioneer heroes. O you pioneers of eternal truth, we sing our heartful greetings, led by Walter Canigan.
Сердечный вам поем привет, мы чтим вас славы бесконечной и сохраняем ваш завет, героев наших прославляем, честь пионеров мы поем, бойцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем, борцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем. Вас на пути удержали, преграды тьмы земных Господь, вы все за истину страдали и пали жертвы за народ. Героев наших прославляем, честь пионеров мы поем, борцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем, борцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем. Примите наш привет сердечный, героев правды и добра, соединимся в жизни вечной, уж настает теперь пора, героев наших прославляем, честь пионеров мы поем, борцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем, борцов духовных возвышаем, тропой блаженною идем.
Следующий стих. «Придите ко мне все труждающие». Oh, come to me, all you hard-working people, and receive eternal life for your soul. Led by Sergei Solyar.
Идите мне, все труждающие, сердцем кроткие, нищей душой, получите награду Отца моего, вечной жизнь для вашей души. Получите награду Отца моего, вечной жизнь для вашей души. Поалкал я вы, накормили меня, жаждел вы, напоили меня, когда странником был, вы приняли меня, наем был, вы одели меня, когда странником был, вы приняли меня, наем был, вы одели меня. Был и вы все посетили меня, был в темнице, вы пришли ко мне, был я нищий и бедным изгнанником был, вы тогда защитили меня. Был я нищий и бедным изгнанником был, вы тогда защитили меня. Наверное, рабы все прославят Творца, духи святости, вечной любви, они будут там радостно, громко, вечно петь всемогущему Богу. Аминь. Они будут там радостно, громко, вечно петь всемогущему Богу. Аминь.
There's a new mic on stage. Наш заключительный номер, братья и сестры, из чужого края, где блуждал душой. Come home, my son. When we have lost our moral compass and have gone down the wrong path in life, we are reminded that it's never too late to return to our spiritual home and be blessed with God's grace, forgiveness, and love. Запевает Михаил Конегин.
Из чужого края
Не блуждал душой, слушай зов вставай.
This message in our last hymn is inviting all of us in to sustain our heritage and continuing our spiritual mission.
Thank you for sharing your love of singing. Keep up the great work in representing our USCC organization and Doukhobor community and sharing our common message with the wider community. At this time, we would like to call on Ren Shaman to the stage to welcome and introduce our honored guests and invite them to share their greetings. As our friends walk onto the stage, we would like to remind you not to miss the UYD Lower Mainland Doukhobor Reunion Choir performance as our festival finale this afternoon. We also invite you to check out their extensive display downstairs of historical photographs and memorabilia from the past 50 years of UYD history. And also a reminder that the bids for the CIS silent auction close at 3 p.m.
I would now like to call upon some very special guests, Fred McCordoff, Jim Lacton, and Artyom Svetlov. We hold these people close to our hearts and are so thrilled they could join us here for this lovely afternoon. Our first guest is the BC Coordinator of the Council of Doukhobors in Canada. Welcome, Fred McCordoff.
Good afternoon. Nice to see a good crowd again. Yesterday, we had an interesting exercise. It was on Friday, and then some more yesterday. We're planning for our future and taking a look at what we might be. It was all very exciting, very interesting, intriguing stuff. New ways to look at ourselves. But what I found most surprising is after being around for 300-400 years, we're still trying to define ourselves, trying to figure out who we are. And that's maybe because we have been defined by others, and we've simply been accepting their definitions. We've been defined as people with a way of life. That seemed pretty reasonable. Different other ways. But ways of life change. Our form and structure of how we be changed and has been changing enormously over the years. Our traditions have changed, good heavens, we know that. Our actions and politics have all changed, but we remain the same. So then maybe we have to alter our definition of how we see ourselves. Maybe it's a way of being. It's a way of being. Then no matter what happens around us and how circumstances change, we still be ourselves. That is one of the things that is unchanging in us. That's the one thing that evolves and goes up. The rest of the stuff that's around us, all that changes, is horizontal. We mix things around, but we're still there. The one thing that can evolve is our being. So maybe we should start looking at ourselves as being. We're not human doings, we're human beings after all, aren't we? And we, as Doukhobors, should consider ourselves, by definition, not as a religion, because we're definitely not that, although people have tried to put us in those brackets. We are people with a way of being that will adapt to any circumstances, any changes that happen, any form structure. We change with our traditions. We keep as much as we can, we modify them. Our politics and actions and everything, we adapt and use whatever comes at us, but we still be Doukhobors. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Fred. We're so happy you could be here with us this afternoon. Our next guest has been an incredible friend to our community, the president of the Watchan Doukhobor Retreat, Jim Lacton.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to congratulate the USCC Union of Youth Executive and all the volunteers that have put in countless hours to put on this very successful event. People from across Western Canada and beyond look forward to this annual event. The Doukhobor Heritage Retreat Society is a non-profit society that operates the Watchan Retreat. The core of the group that originally acquired the 200-acre site and then proceeded to build what is there today came from the DCA, from the Doukhobor Cultural Association. This core group of volunteers signed personal guarantees at the local credit union to be able to purchase the land. One of our members then, Walter Demoskoff, was commissioned to selectively log the property in such a way that would enhance our ability to build what is there today. Only enough timber was removed to pay for the land. He did an awesome job. It's a beautiful site. Many of you will remember the Doukhobor Sports Day that was put on by the DCA on Father's Day every year at the Playmore Junction. This was a fundraiser for the DCA, and some of those proceeds were used to pay for the property taxes and maintenance of the 200-acre site at Watchan. This dedicated group of volunteers created a vision for Watchan and had the energy and leadership skills within the group to take on this massive project. It took countless hours and many years to build. This venture was built by volunteers and supported by very generous donations by individuals and businesses. Donations of their time, money, materials, equipment, supplies, etc., etc. It has always been a great challenge to create enough income to meet the expenses of operating the retreat. We have had to rely on grants and generous donations to pay the bills. The good news is we are now on the verge of becoming self-sufficient. With the creative use of our available resources, there is now a plan in motion to become totally self-sufficient. The other good news is that the next generation has now taken over the day-to-day operations of the retreat. We indeed have some very talented and energetic young people getting involved. They have embraced the vision and are coming forward with new inspirations. I am the incoming president at a very exciting time. Our board of directors is now becoming more of an advisory board rather than an operational board. We have an annual celebration called Family Days, formerly known as the Watchan Jam. This will happen on July 6th to the 8th. That's the weekend after the long weekend in July. There will be music and entertainment for all ages, food concessions, and a whole lot of fun. In fact, I have been telling everyone that this is always the most fun weekend of the summer. Camping and RV hookups will be available. Please contact Nona Kucher to book your spot. This truly is a family event. We too have people coming from across Western Canada that make the journey to Watchan every year. Please come and check us out, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our next guest joins us from Russia originally, but most recently from Alberta, Artyom Svitlov.
Здравствуйте всем. Я public speaker и очень рад стоять здесь и мне представить слово. То, что я здесь написал, это было сделано сегодня утром. Я проснулся. Очень сложно. Вчера был такой долгий день, много впечатлений хороших, чувств. И я видел очень яркий сон перед тем, как проснуться. Большой корабль. В нем много-много людей, как здесь присутствующих. Больше. Очень большой корабль. Он плывет по реке или по озеру, но вода спокойная, прозрачная, чистая. Вокруг я вижу деревья. Деревья всякие разные, и они все, что не дерево, оно цветет разных красках. Желтые, синие, красные. Очень красиво. Когда он подплывает к берегу, его нос накреняется, и я вижу, что он уходит немножечко под воду, но это не угрожает людям, кто в корабле. Но он поднимает тем самым воду наверх и делает цунами, которая поднимается наверх на землю, и люди какие-то, которых я никогда не знаю, я их не вижу, и среди этих людей на земле я вижу клоунов клонов от Джокер, наверное, для вас привычно, которые в разных масках и одеждах типа медвежьей шкуры, и они делают какие-то движения, дурачат, то есть людей, которые находятся на корабле. То есть мое представление, что это люди, эти клоуны, это те, кто дурачат других. И эта вода от этого корабля смывает их всех. Это я проснулся здесь. А теперь вернусь к листочку. Сегодня мало где можно встретить счастье. Счастье просто забрали у людей и превратили нас в общество потребителей. Посмотрели телевизор, побежали, купили, съели, забыли. Удовольствие получили на одну секунду. Вчера здесь журналист спросил у меня, а почему я здесь? Я задумался. И ответил, потому что я ищу жизнь. То, что я имею сегодня, нельзя назвать жизнью, счастливой жизнью. Я думаю, что это проблема для многих людей. Но так сложилось, что в моей жизни мне 35 лет почти. Можно разделить на 3 периода. И так сложилось, что в моей жизни она сама стала менять все, что происходит вокруг меня. Меня перестали интересовать молодежные различные дискотеки, ночные клубы, выпивка, алкоголь и всякое прочее дурачество. Я стал сам внутри относиться к здоровому образу жизни, наблюдая на то, что происходит. И сегодня я сделал анализ, что в поисках счастливой жизни я пришел к тому пониманию, что нам необходима мировоззренческая безопасность, которая включает в себя само мировоззрение, историю, идеологию, экономику, генетику и войну. Вот это вот все то, что управляет нами и то, что мешает быть нам счастливым. Вчера мы здесь на воркшопе было у нас очень много вопросов, и там внизу они все остались. И я предложил организаторам, вы в коробочках, куда эти бутылки с вином ставить, вы эти листочки все соберите, а через 30 лет откройте эти коробочки и посмотрите, о чем мы здесь разговаривали. И для меня очень важно донести до вас понимание, что сегодня также 80% присутствует здесь людей, кому больше 50 лет. Молодежи практически нет. Не может быть будущее без прошлого. И самое главное, что будущее зависит от молодежи, от детей. И без русского языка не будет того, о чем мы вчера говорили. Это очень важно, русский язык. Я готов, я сейчас живу в Альберте, и по образованию я юрист, я закончил в России академию юридическую. Я работал как юрист и адвокатом в России, успел перед тем, как переехать в Канаду. Я готов приехать из Альберты, и если это вам нужно будет, задайте себе вопрос, например, организовать в школе очень сложно в канадской системе сделать так, чтобы вы говорили по-русски. Я сейчас тоже говорю по-русски. Очень сложно. Нужно какое-то кардинальное изменение, какое-то, это вам, если вам это нужно, решение, может быть, создать private school, частную школу, где мы будем заниматься не только с детьми, но с любым возрастом, кто желает ближе познать русский язык. Это очень важно и очень необходимо. Без этого нет будущего, нет счастливой жизни, без понимания. И что касается конкретно spiritual и культуры, которую Олег заканчивал, которую вы несете в мир. Таким образом, если вам это интересно, то милости прошу, обращайтесь ко мне, и я буду рад каждому из вас. Спасибо.
Спасибо, Artyom. I'd now like to invite Fred McCordoff to briefly share some greetings from our friends in Calgary.
I got so excited coming up here talking about what happened yesterday, I forgot what I was supposed to say. My main job here is representing the Council of Doukhobors in Canada. And I provide greetings from our Saskatchewan people, Mitch and Dorothy Ozerov, who are the coordinators in Saskatoon, that were unable to attend. Also, Jack and Jan Tarasov, that they were a lot of times they would come to the festivals. They were unable to do so this time around, and they send greetings and really miss coming here. The Washan brothers as well. Julie and Alec are part of the council meetings all the time. The Washan brothers this weekend, you might find them missing here. They were in Pincher Creek doing singing and other things at a memorial for a friend. That's why they're not here. So send greetings from all of them to you. Thank you again.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Last year, the Youth Council sponsored a project initiated by the Spiritual Cultural Development Committee. The vision? To give younger generations a deeper understanding of our Psalms in a more contemporary language. We are pleased to announce that the Book of Psalms has now been produced and is titled Singing Our Prayers. The book includes literal translations of the Psalms, as well as Natasha Jemaev's adaptations in a unique poetic style. As you may have noticed, the book is hot off the press and now available for sale. We thank you for your support in this endeavor. We are pleased that Natasha Jemaev is here today and will share one of her psalms with us.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you all for being here today. In the interest of time, I'd like to give a few thank yous, but I'm going to do it fairly quickly. This book, it was a lot of work, but it was a joy to create. I had a lot of time alone to meditate on the topics and try to bring words forward that would do the prayers themselves justice. I hope I succeeded in some way and that it moves any and all of you and your families and relatives and inspires something in you. And I ask before I read, if anything I've read or anything you may read in this book inspires you, use that little flame to make yourself a better person and to make the world a better place, because I think that's what our culture is all about. Great gratitude to, first of all, the Union of Youth for funding this project and supporting this book to come into existence. Thank you so much to the UCC Executive Committee, the SCD committees, I didn't do this alone, and I had this lovely little flexible review committee that met with me over the last year, sometimes 4 hours at a time, to discuss and go over these translations. So I'd just like to thank you guys very quickly. J.J. Varigan, Jan Kabatoff, Ernie Varigan, and Fred McCordiff. Thank you very much for supporting me in this process and bringing your valued contributions. Thank you to the editors of Iskra, Stephanie and Barry, for printing the booklet last year so we could give the public a taste of this. Thank you so much, George Kuchin, for the cover art. If you haven't seen the book, his painting is amazing, and I'm so grateful that it worked out to have his work on the cover. Thank you, Ed Dergossa, for handling the final details of printing, and we did get it done on time. Oh, there's George. Thank you, George. Thank you to my family and everybody else who supported me, and anybody I may have missed, anybody who offered words of encouragement. And most of all, thank you to the ancestors that brought us to this place together today. To the people who wrote the original Psalms, the people who translated them for generations past. I'm grateful to stand in front of you today with that whole history behind me and to hopefully try to make something new for new generations. I'm going to give you a taste of some of the wisdom that these Psalms contain. This prayer is called Laholit Hespot Otruku Swayemu. The Divine tells us, my children. The Divine tells us, my children, no matter how young or old you are, keep learning. Before you do anything, ask for guidance. Act from good intentions and follow the wisdom that lives in your heart. The wiser you become, the more you can help others. Be a strong friend to all living beings, a light that guides others toward truth, a loving presence in times of grief, a healer of illness and pain, a lifeline to those who are drowning in everyday life. Be a compassionate friend, a courageous example to those who are afraid, a mender who helps the broken become whole, a teacher who inspires others to awaken, a source of inspiration for everyone you meet. Develop your inner light, and you will be a light for others. Find the divine within yourself, and you will lead others to wisdom and peace. Bohu našemu slavu.
Thank you so much, Natasha. We appreciate your gift. Now, in its 16th official season, the Victoria Doukhobor Choir has recently undergone several administrative changes and is pleased to welcome Lunya Dergasov as its new artistic director. Keeping with this year's festival theme, Exploring Our Roots, the choir has developed into some of their best-loved songs of previous years to present a program that connects the group with its artistic origins while redefining the spiritual meaning of its repertoire for a new group of singers. Welcome, Victoria Doukhobor Choir.
Non shastia
afternoon, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for having us back to sing for you again this year. We always love to come to the festival. It's the highlight of our year. Our first song that we sang was Życiewska Moria, The Sea of Life, which was led by Morty Jmev. Our next number will be В минуту жизни трудною, In Life's Trying Moments, led by Rachel Rilkoff. And we will finish with Мир, полный мир, Peace, Complete Peace, led by myself. Thank you.
Album
It is so fantastic that your group is so passionate and committed to getting together. Thank you for carrying on our traditions outside the main Doukhobor hub. The North Community Choir came about when each community didn't have enough members to continue on their own, so they formed one choir. The North Community from Glade, Shoreacres, Thrums, Christova, and Nelson. They love to sing and learn new songs together. Okay. Speech shared by Eileen Kuznetsov. Pech skajet Yelena Kuznetsova.
Good afternoon, dear Berrigan family, youth, children, guests, brothers and sisters. I extend greetings from the members of the North Community Choir. The annual Youth Festival is a time of celebration, a time to celebrate the many facets of our culture that have not only withstood the challenges in our history, but also have assisted us in communicating Doukhobor values and ideals of equality, universal brotherhood, and peace. One feature that is profoundly evident at the festival is the traditional a cappella singing. Singing is not only an expression of our culture, but our window into our Doukhobor soul. According to Doukhobor historian Eli Popov, under the leadership of Savelij Kapustin in the early 1800s in the Milky Waters area of Crimea, psalm singing was perfected and elevated to one of the highest levels in Doukhobor history. At the same time, as the Doukhobors broke away from the church and all its rituals, they abstained from instrumental playing of music, as this was interpreted as artificial and hampered the true expression of our soul. Psalm singing was the basic singing in prayer worship. After the Doukhobor migration to Canada, psalm singing continued, but the singing of hymns received much wider prominence, and on lighter occasions, folk songs were getting to be quite widely accepted. Doukhobor poets, which included Peter Lordley Berrigan, composed hymns of various themes: Doukhobor martyrdom, pacifist ideals, as well as the importance of Christ's teachings in the Doukhobor faith. After Peter Cistikow Berrigan's arrival in Canada in 1927, the singing of hymns was given a high priority among young people's group activities. In 1960, John Berrigan's mother, Anna Markova, came to Canada. She was a talented singer and introduced many new hymns and songs. During the first several years of her life here, she was on a continual round of choir practices, youth culture work, Sunday school, children's lessons and singing, and her imprint on the evolvement of Doukhobor singing during this decade was quite momentous. Many choirs were formed during our honorary chairman, John Berrigan's tenure. Choirs traveled and performed for politicians, the Queen, at peace rallies, as well as at various world events to convey the Doukhobor heritage through the artistic, sincere soul expression of song. The message of our forebearers of peace and brotherhood was delivered by these organized vessels not only throughout Canada, but also in the USA and abroad. Presently, although fewer in number, choirs receive invitations to participate at multicultural events where we continue to share a message of peace, our faith in Jesus Christ, as well as respect and care for Mother Earth. Regardless of our fluency in the Russian words, the language of our ancestry, it is the experience of soul communion with other singers in prayer that becomes the focus of Doukhobor spirituality. Singing is one way our soul reaches out to God, communicates with each other and the world, and even if, at times, we do not understand the words, the spirit of each song is felt in our hearts. Whenever Doukhobors, especially those of our generation, gather to celebrate the uniqueness of our cultural identity, there is a sharing of traditional song. Will Doukhobor singing continue to keep its distinct uniqueness in the future is the question that many of us ask. Singing is intertwined in all our traditions, habits, our character, and life concepts. Is the tradition of Doukhobor singing one of the identifying characteristics of what it means to be Doukhobor? I will conclude with a quote by Leonardo da Vinci. Do you know that our soul is composed of harmony?
Our first hymn is O Naval Senior Moria. This hymn, written by George Duchovny in the 1930s, explains that we live in a time of unrest, troubles, and turmoil. Suffering can bring an awakening, and we take our fears and failures to God our Father. We are reminded to overcome evil with good, and our faith prompts us to hope for a peaceful future. It will be led by Katie Pomerleau.
This hymn was written by Vima Conan in the year 1930.
Dear friends, a new dawn is now upon us. Soon the sun will rise again. From our slumber we must awaken. For our new future we must prepare. Let us abandon tools of destruction. Consume them in an eternal flame. Let us convert them all to plowshares. The world is waiting for this glorious, peaceful day. Towards this light we are striving. This righteous path we must attain. Led by Vera Pavlov.
Our concluding hymn describes the beauty and wonder of nature and the strength of our Creator to overcome all obstacles. The day will come when all fighting and wars will cease. The hymn Priroda i Raj was composed by Hrigorij Dirhavusov in 1931. Kathy Tarasov leads the choir.
Небо
Благодарим вас за хорошее внимание.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful, heartwarming melodies. Spirit Wrestlers 2050 workshops were attended here on Friday evening and Saturday morning. We would like to ask Michael Sheveldave to share some of the outcomes of this event.
Thanks, girls. Some of you might have heard we hosted a workshop on Friday evening, presentations on Friday evening, as well as workshop conversations on Saturday morning. Well, first of all, this is my goddaughter, Leah Kuznetsov, and she was part of the inspiration, which I want to introduce here. Fitting that her Baba, Eileen, was just speaking earlier. The idea of Spirit Wrestlers 2050 came about actually in pre-convention meeting number 2, I think South Community, in December, when we were having conversations and there was a lot of challenging questions and issues being raised about change in the organization, the USCC organization, because that's the convention we were preparing for. And there was a few of us younger generation in attendance, one of which was me and my good friend Gary Kuznetsov, Leah's dad. And it was actually an idea that my mother suggested, Janet, and she said, why didn't the youth have a convention to explore ideas? Because the youth have to own the changes that would be initiated. So that was the original inspiration. We then had a lot of conversations with parents at our community Sunday school, those that saw us perform this morning. And those discussions were inspired by contributions by a lot of the children, and a lot of the challenges that the children presented to us as parents. For those that don't know, actually Leah is Swiss Doukhobor. Her and her family, Gary's wife Andrea, moved back from Switzerland, and Andrea is a Swiss and Canadian citizen now. The thing that was really interesting is we wanted to understand how do we capture the essence of spirit wrestling so it transcends cultures and origins of background. Because one of the things that was fascinating when Gary presented his story on Friday evening is that his wife Andrea really feels in her heart that she's a Doukhobor, but she doesn't share the same ancestry. And that's, I think there's an essence there that really we could learn from. The final inspiration which contributed to the ideas of Spirit Wrestler 2050 is us as parents looking at our children. For example, Leah's going to be 43. My daughter Annika, who sang last night, is going to be 48, I think, so only a year or two younger than I am now. And so we thought, well, what essence of spirit wrestling, of Doukhoborism, are they going to be leading? And we thought if we do not get active as parents, working with our children, working with our peers, of planting some seeds, we're just going to allow things to sort of wither on the vine or transform themselves. We wanted to become proactive on how we could potentially transform. So that's what led to the inspiration. We were thankful that the Union of Youth allowed us to tap into the Youth Festival. I know that was difficult because the weekend is so busy, but we thought what better venue to have an not experimental, but an initial small step, to see if we can attract some of the people that travel in for this great event to also participate in sharing ideas. So that was the starting point, and that was the reason. We asked for presentations widely. We broadcasted along our normal communication channels, Iskra and others, and we also went to more innovative channels like the Doukhobors of Canada group on Facebook to see if we could stimulate proposals. Gary and I created a proposal working with a group locally here. Fred Smrodin came in with a proposal as well. And there's an interesting synergy of thought and thinking on how to actually build community using some expertise and knowledge that is existing out there with other people. What was fascinating is we both, without working together at all, presented spirit wrestlers that didn't have Doukhobor origin as we know it. So there's examples of, there's no denying, I don't think anyone in the room would deny that Gandhi, for example, exhibited incredible spirit wrestling qualities that we resonate with. Martin Luther King, another one. We showed a picture of Rosa Parks, someone who actually goes against the negative stream of society to support the light and the spirit within. So that was the idea. We presented some concepts. It stimulated on yesterday morning some ideas with the community, a group of people that gathered, because fundamentally in our work is we realize that you can't achieve change by pre-engineering a solution. So if we want to get active, we need to take a bias for action. We need to plant many, many seeds and try different things. Ideally, try things working very much together with the youth of today, the children of today. We used a video to inspire, a teacher in India inspired school children to transform her city. They then challenged the children across 32,000 schools to transform 1 billion people across India. Now these are school children, and they let them fly with their ideas. The key thing is they gave them the freedom, they gave them some funding. That initiative in India now exists across 50 countries. Not-for-profit, beautiful movement. It was used as inspiration for us to think of how we can take a bias for action, take action into supporting spirit wrestling more broadly. So we have some ideas. There was a lot of details to discuss, but in the consideration of time, I welcome you to engage with us. We're going to try taking this movement as a starting point, broadening it out, networking and connecting with young people. And we're having lots of conversations. Have a look at some of the actions. That's a small sampling, I think, what's possible. We hope to engage not just the communities here, but communities abroad. And in this today time, we are communicating at an instant around the world. So how do we actually harvest the potential of the networking that we can have, where I think many of you might have family members that are abroad that are not here, but how do we engage them in a more active form of spirit wrestling in their areas? Okay, so that's a little introduction. Please engage with us, and we look forward to talking more.
Thank you so much, Michael.
The Executive Director of the Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ, John J. Varigan, has often voiced one of his visions, which is for each and every one of us to be a leader who is also being a team player in our homes, in our community, and in our world. He challenges us and encourages us to deepen our spiritual understanding, broaden our cultural perspectives, and strengthen our sense of community. His focus is on serving others and on making the world a better place. Мы очень рад, что Иван Иванович с нами сегодня. Попросим, чтобы он поделился своими мыслями. We invite J.J. Varigan to share his message with us.
Добрый день, дорогие братья и сестры. Я хотел поблагодарить молодежь, этих красивых девушек, они уже убегли. Я извиняюсь, я хочу извиниться Кудейскому мужскому хору. We blew your performance this afternoon, folks. We were being outside getting interviewed. And so apologies to the Kootenai Men's Choir. Меня тоже попросили поблагодарить всех вас за вашу заботу, выражение помощи тем людям, которые страдают от наводнений в Grand Forks. I went back home last night and came out this morning, and the water in Grand Forks was about 3 feet lower. And it's nice. It's nice. You have to give me excuse me for a little bit of station identification. I had some things written down at Babushka Markova's house, and I didn't have time to run over there. what I have written down is in my head and in my heart. And it doesn't change too much except in the interests of growth, I hope. So, the flooding has peaked in Grand Forks, I hope, and now things will start to come down and get back to normal. И это хорошо. Почему это хорошо? Это была трагедия. Ну, эта трагедия сближила населению Grand Forks. I've lived in Grand Forks most of my life, except that I've been traveling or working away. And I remember being in Grand Forks as a kid growing up, when probably about 40% or maybe even 50% of the population was Doukhobor. In fact, I remember, maybe some of you will remember, jokes about how you could tell a Doukhobor. And without getting into gender or anything, one of the constants was a co-op shopping bag and boots. You remember those jokes? Some of you that are older? But the flood did bring the community of Grand Forks closer together. And that's interesting when it takes a tragedy to bring people together. In fact, that seems to be the norm. When things are okay, people are sort of like this. And when, you know, what hits the fan, then they come together. And that's been true in our history as Doukhobors. Some people would say that our most illustrious periods, our golden ages, were times when we were under stress, under duress, when we were taking on the might of an empire, the power of a church, and then we came here and almost had to do it again. And so yes, that flooding brought the people of Grand Forks together. And it brought a lot of good comments and best wishes from people all over the place to our community of Grand Forks. Some of you that have driven through Grand Forks coming here no doubt saw the folks doing sandbagging by our hockey rink across from the ball field. We had our men supporting that effort. We had our women cooking and preparing and delivering food to the workers and the evacuees. We told the people, the principals involved, that our membership, our facilities, our properties were ready for use by those in need. They were very, very grateful. And so while we were discussing all of this, we also took the opportunity to recognize something else. That now Canadians, Grand Forkers that live in such a beautiful place under such benevolent beneficence witnessed this kind of tragedy. And so while we were sandbagging, we were commenting, I guess now we sort of feel like refugees, huh? Now we sort of have a little bit of a sense of what those people we call refugees feel like. And yeah, people were saying, you know what, you're right. I never thought of it that way. And then with some others, we even poked a little further. And we said, yes, well, thank God. We've come through this. And we will rebuild. We will repair. We will recover. And we don't have to dodge missiles, bullets, or bombs like other refugees. And some of those bullets and bombs and missiles bear markings. Made in Canada, made in the USA, made in Germany. That took some people aback a little bit. And so yes, it's interesting when tragedy brings people together and makes them open their eyes a little bit more. So that was Grand Forks. Now I want to talk about this festival. I want to congratulate Michael and Gary, Wendy, and all of those people that worked and participated in the workshop on Friday evening, Saturday morning. On the one hand, you'd expect that would be wonderfully welcomed, and yet not really by everyone. threatened by it. Some people felt that part of the program of a festival was being hijacked. In fact, I saw emails from friends of ours that even misinterpreted the message that was sent out regarding that workshop. Some people read the promotion of that event in this manner. Those guys think they're already at 2050. They think they're so much better than the rest of us. And then they started arguing. And it blows me away at how fragile we could be sometimes. I'm talking about us as Doukhobors, as spirit wrestlers. The difficulty we have to arrive at consensus when we are free from fear, free from violence, free from destruction. Некоторые люди комментировали на нашу прошлое и даже помянули книгу, животная книга. Это составление наших псалмов, наших предков. Мы до сих пор ссоримся, как перевести это на английский. Is this the book of life or is this the living book? Why do we argue? Whether it's, and again, it seems even with respect to the wonderful work done by Natasha Jmeyev. Some people think it's wonderful work, other people can't seem to take it. When I was at the workshop, I heard a good brother that I respect say, we're all spirit wrestlers now, there's no more Doukhobors. I wonder why we are so inclined or so prone to divisiveness when in our verbal exhortations we call on people to come together. Not to argue, not to fight. It gives us a lot of things to think about. One of the things that I was very much impressed by at the workshop was the degree to the support of those present that knowledge of the Russian language had. And I want to thank Artyom for commenting connection of the language to our way of life, way of being. Geez, I hope we don't get into an argument over that one. Bring it on. No, it's interesting, you guys, and I say this with full respect, love. So back to that email. Yes, the comment was that we now have 500 years to build a university and a hospital in order to be people of the 25th century. Well, to those people I could say we haven't built a university or a hospital, but we have been very supportive and very instrumental in the establishment of the Mir Center for Peace at Selkirk College. And in the, maybe not building a hospital, but in the provision of aid, the provision of goods, lending our voices, lending our actions to peace, love, and harmony, not only in our communities, not only in our country, but around the world. And one other thing that has not only come from yesterday and the day before, but throughout my life, is people. Oh, I want to say one more thing. Kelly, my brother, Kelly Prosnika, at our at our convention last year, said something that I wanted to follow him up on. He said, and we're discussing the difficulty of finding people to fill the position in our organization, and that was referenced earlier also by Michael. And he asked a question that was not rhetorical. why do our people go somewhere else and not to us? And then I thought, after I heard that, complimentary thought, why do so many people that don't have our heritage come to us? These are questions, brothers and sisters, that we all have to ask ourselves. We are beneficiaries of a lot of wondrous things. We have another guest that didn't come up here. She was a little bit too shy to come up. Violetta. Who's this? Violetta. Где вы сидите? Она вела интервью с многими людьми. И она тоже имела интересные вопросы задавать всем нам. И это тоже связано с нашим бытом, с нашим прошлым. How many times have you heard your friends or colleagues in discussions say about yourselves, why don't you people promote yourselves more and what you do? How many of you have heard that? Yeah. Well, the answer is very simple. Because unlike so many people in our world, part of our culture, part of our life concept is not to stand in front of people and beat their chests about how great we are. Because we are raised to be humble. And whenever we violate that teaching, boy, do we look dumb and stupid. Just like others do when you notice them beating their chests. This is the 71st Annual Youth Festival. In my greeting, in the booklet, I asked people to consider the changes that our youth have made this year and to issue their concern, their criticism in a constructive fashion. Because, brothers and sisters, никто из нас совсем совершен. Мы все нуждаемся немножко вырастить внутри, мозгами и душой. Мы говорим, что наше понимание, наше веропонимание, наш образ жизни основан на Божий закон и учение Иисуса Христа. Некоторые обижаются, что мы недостаточно говорим о Христе. Я хочу извиниться перед тех людей, но я должен подчеркнуть, что духоборцы – люди не слова, а дела. Мы недовольны пропагандировать слова этого человека, потому что мы стараемся внушить их в себе внутри и выполнять их на деле вне себе. And so what is the basis of our Doukhobor life concept, brothers and sisters? We say to follow the law of God, to fulfill the teachings of Jesus Christ. So I am sure every single person here has spent a little bit of thinking, seeing, are those two separate avenues? Or where is there some complementary common ground? To me, it's a very simple solution, because I like to look at the simple things in life. I don't like to make things complicated. There's only one element, one stream that flows through both of those. It's called service to your fellow human being. So we love God with all our heart. We try to fulfill the teachings of Christ. And we have to love and help and express empathy and compassion to our fellow human beings. I want to thank those brothers and sisters present here who have done that, continue to do that now, and have planted the seeds in our young people not to lose that tradition. Спаси вас, Господи, братья и сестры, за ваше воспитание ваших детей. Потому что это именно вопрос, который стоит перед нами. In listening to the preparation for the festival, including some of the changes that were being introduced that I thought could be in our best interest, depending on how we take them. And a thought came to me, and some of you have heard me express it. Are we today witnessing the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning? For 300 years, we have tried to sustain a tradition that people bled and died for. We never experienced any of that. Our parents maybe experienced being called dirty dukes. And now people of my generation call others racial epithets. Is that a measure of our progress, brothers and sisters? God, I hope not. Yes, we have been the beneficiaries of great things. Some of us to the loss of our living memory. And so it is indeed, well, not, maybe it is frustrating. But I say this with ultimate respect and love. I'm not coming down on anyone, folks. But we heard presentations on how we should be peacemakers, better peacemakers than we are, and how we should be engaging with other people and other agencies and institutions. And it blew me away that the people did not seem to know that we already done that. We've done that in spades to the point where these people are coming to us for leadership. We ourselves don't seem to understand that. I heard a wonderful initiative being proposed that we establish our platform, our own platform, in order to get our message out there. I'm talking about an internet platform. And I have no doubt that we have the smarts to do it. But as I said at the workshop, where is the limit switch? Where is the guarantee that will not flip a not-for-profit for greed? Because I think that's the way Facebook started. And so, Michael, Gary, please don't misunderstand me. I support that initiative. I am just cautioning us that we have to finish our work before we expect to be paid. That's it, folks. We live in a society where everyone seems to want something immediately. You know, I lived in New York in 1986. Before that, people used to argue about getting something to drink on Sundays or the stores being open. And then all of a sudden, Expo 86 is here, and we have a drive-through liquor store in Grand Forks. And there's no question about stores being open on Sundays. So, folks, let's not deny the conflict between the dollar and the divine. Let it not blind us like it has blinded so many. And so, my fellow brothers and sisters, if we truly believe in the law of God and the teachings of Christ, then let's start demonstrating that. And I'm not saying that to you who demonstrate above and beyond. People like Lisa and Ira, who we acknowledged earlier today. I guess we should also acknowledge their husbands, Colin and Derek, for sharing Lisa and Ira with us. And our wonderful Union of Youth Council. And speaking of expansion, our chair of the Youth Council, that capable, intelligent young woman, Ren Shaman. She did not come from Georgia. And all of her colleagues on council. And so, brothers and sisters, we are not asking you to shut your voices of concern down. We're asking you to be constructive. We are not trying to dampen your pride in your heritage. We are, have been, and will continue to invite you to demonstrate it through your service to your fellow brothers and sisters in our organization. Thanks to which, and I don't want this to be taken as a beating of the breast, if it wasn't for our Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ, there would be none of these festivals, there would be none of these facilities, there would not be that much of a positive reputation. And yet many Doukhobors, the only thing they seem to have is something to knock about our Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ. I ask all of you to share your talent, your wisdom, your skills, and your time with us. Because if we continue to be true, if we continue to sustain that which is integral, then I don't think it's going to matter whether we're called Doukhobors or spirit wrestlers. Because then our deeds will define us. And we won't have to wait for others to do it, or even ourselves. And so, brothers and sisters, I want to thank all of you that made this weekend possible in whatever branch of this beautiful festival. Our young people and our younger people emceeing and singing and sharing their thoughts. And I apologize for going on too long at the mouth. Спасибо вам за ваше внимание.
JJ, thank you so much for your deep insight and knowledge and for all your guidance and support. We appreciate you very much for all that you do. Спасибо.
Wishing to connect on a musical and social level during the summer months, a small group of choristers, that's a new one, from the Victoria Doukhobor Choir began to gather for evenings of laughter and music. From these casual beginnings, the Gemstones have become a sextet of singers dedicated to our craft and to the support and encouragement of one another. Their unusual name is taken directly from the Doukhobor psalm Utishim minyo Господи and the phrase Ukrepi minyo Господи, krepche kamnya samotvit nogo. Strengthen me, Lord, stronger than the indestructible gemstone. In singing and gathering together, they strengthen their connection to the Doukhobor heritage and shine together in a mosaic of brilliant music colors. We are thrilled to present the Gemstones.
Is of the
Откройте сердца для людей.
Thank you for traveling to the Kootenays and sharing your talents with us. The Vision of Peace Youth Choir is a diverse group of youth interested in learning about their Doukhobor or Russian heritage through song. They spend time learning some Doukhobor stikhi и pesni, some songs with Russian language, or sometimes just songs that they simply enjoy or have a good message. They will now share a speech.
Good afternoon to the Berrigan families and those participating in the festival today. My name is Gary Tarasov, and I'm one of the parents who has been actively involved in supporting the youth in participating in the participation of their youth choir, the Vision of Peace. My son Andreas and I were discussing the festival theme as Liana Zwick, their choir director, had asked the youth to reflect on this year's theme. She received many thoughtful responses. The youth found that this year's theme allowed for reflection of a deep history, culturally and spiritually. Vita Rilkov identified this right away when he noted that we still have so much to learn and discover about our Doukhobor heritage. The responses from the choir members were indicative of this. Selena and her brother Adam Markin noted that because they can see what our ancestors have done for us, as well as what people are doing today, that they can see how things have changed and how they can grow in the future. They found that it's good to reflect on where we came from and what we are, how we believe, but then not just focus on the past, but to use it as the pulse in the now and in the future. They said that being a Doukhobor and learning things has helped shape the way they think and interact with their friends. Olivia Bailey wrote that when she thinks about her cultural roots, she realizes that she is beyond fortunate to be part of such an amazing Doukhobor community. To her, being a Doukhobor is more than just a traditions and culture. It helps define who she is as a person. Being a Doukhobor really puts the saying, "It takes a community to raise a child," into perspective. And she believes our small Doukhobor community is more like one big happy family. We are a family that came together to share such important parts of our lives, which is truly an amazing thing. And in a similar way, Jessica Zwick felt that knowing her culture's roots has really influenced her life in many ways. When going through tough times, she finds that it's inspiring to think about those who came before her and what they had to do to get to this place. It reminds her to stay true to herself, and it reminds her that hard work can get you anywhere. So there I was with my son Andreas, also discussing this question of the festival theme, exploring our roots culturally and spiritually. And he ended up with some very interesting questions. He wondered who the Doukhobors were before they left the church and were given the Doukhobor name. Who were these people before they became defined by these historical events? And what made these people burn their weapons and refuse to kill others? How did they know that we are all souls from God and that there is an inner light within? These people spoke the same language as their neighbors. They dressed as peasants like all the rest. Who were these prehistoric Doukhobors? They had no events to define them, and they had no unique culture to define them. Did they not exist before they were given a name? And yet these people existed. But something was different about them, even if they had no name at that time. Something was different about these souls, which would later lead to actions. There's no way to tell from the outside. how can one know what's in another person's heart? And maybe only like hearts can tell. I too began to ponder this as Andreas and I discussed this topic. Yes, who were these people before they were given the name Doukhobor by the church? These people existed before they had a name. And these people existed before their actions defined them. They dressed like everyone else around them. So, was there something special about these nameless Russian peasants? Most certainly. In contrast to strong focus on social and political issues in our modern times, I believe these nameless people were first and foremost a mystical group carrying profound divine knowledge through time. They had what's known as gnosis, and that's a deep mystical knowingness of soul and God. And they really did not need to make a big deal about it until they were encroached by church and state. Theirs was not head knowledge. It was not even faith or belief, but rather knowingness, right down to every cell in their body, so as to be able to accept and endure any toil and suffering. And again, did they have a way of life? Maybe they had a way of being. Ways of life do change over time and can be taken away by others. But a way of being is forever. And this way of being attracted others to them. These people did not turn away those who also wanted this way of being, this gnosis. And then somewhere along the line, the pre-Doukhobors realized that the body is the divine temple of soul, which has a spark of God in all people. And thus, Holy Communion is possible with merely a gathering of like-hearted souls, with no need for an external temple. God came first because God is the creator and the sustainer. I have little faith in human thoughts, emotions, and willpower alone. But with God, anything is possible. Perhaps it's reasonable to consider exploring the notion that Doukhoborism may be a way of being that transcends time, and that maybe it's only our own maybe ignorance or vanity or very distracted busyness that is keeping its profound mystical roots invisible and forgotten. But it's still here. And perhaps the future of Spirit Wrestlers 2050 first and foremost depends on understanding and embodying this way of being, this gnosis, or deep mystical knowingness of soul, God, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you for your kind attention.
My name is Olivia Bailey, and this is Annika Shoveldave. We are members of the Vision of Peace Choir. When we started our choir year, we had about 9 or so friends singing with us, and then we had some new friends from Nelson join us. We are committed to learning our Doukhobor culture of singing, but given our smaller group size, we were also hoping for an experience singing with a larger choir. And so we wondered, if there was a family of friends anywhere, maybe some mamas and papas who would join us to create this experience.
Well, what do you know? Some of our mamas and papas and the Family of Friends Choir graciously joined us for the singing collaboration experience. Our first song is a stih, written by Pyatrushka Haspodny called Haspodь Moей Ty Жизни Sviet. This is a very spiritual Doukhobor hymn reminding us that God made us of the earth and through our souls gave us understanding. Haspodь Moей Ty Жизни Sviet is led by Benny Shoveldev, my mom.
Zimni
My name is Andres Tarasov, and this is Sasha Kuchin, and we also sing with the Vision of Peace Choir. When we are choosing songs, sometimes we draw inspiration from other choral groups. This next song is one that you'll immediately recognize, but it has a few choral twists. One different twist is the arrangement, which was created by a Canadian group called Choir, Choir, Choir.
And the other difference is the Russian lyrics that we added in. Our friend Totya Vasilisa translated this song when Jasmine Popov, the choir director of the Family of Friends Choir, and Veni Sheveldaev taught it to their elementary school Russian immersion students and performed it with them. The words and song, by Louis Armstrong, reflect our Doukhobor understanding of our appreciation and love of this world and one another. Our next song is What a Wonderful World, led by Jasmine Popov.
Hello, everybody. I'm Murat Sammartino. This is my little sister, Setnaya. We are also part of the Vision of Peace Choir. And on the behalf of our combined group, I'd like to thank you all for your kind attention. And a big thank you to the Family of Friends Choir and our mothers and fathers for the encouragement.
We welcome and invite any interested youth in joining our group for next season in the fall of 2018. For further details, please contact any of the Vision of Peace choir members or our director, Liana Zwick. Thank you.
Wow, what a great idea. A collaborative effort that strengthens not only the choral experience, but relationships as well. It's wonderful to see such a diverse group of talented singers. Thank you so much for sharing.
As was mentioned earlier, this year, 2018, marks 80 years for the Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ, an organization that has kept us together as a spiritual family. If we take some time to explore our roots, we might discover there is something to be proud of and much to celebrate. We invite Lisa Markin to highlight some of these achievements.
Dobry dzień, good afternoon. This year's festival theme, as chosen by the Youth Council, is exploring our roots, culturally and spiritually. For those that were able to join us yesterday afternoon, tours were primarily offered in this brilliant area. The idea was to explore. Through exploring, there is discovery, and we actually get to the deeper substance. Sometimes we only see things on the surface and think we know. But when we actually take the time to explore, we may get the opportunity to see through a different lens. Well, yesterday proved to do just that. As we explore our roots, we are all aware that we originated in Russia. We have knowledge of our Doukhobor roots and our foundational history stemming back to Russia. Today, we will continue to explore a significant historical chapter in the story of a determined people to maintain their spiritual and cultural roots. Since the early 1900s, Brilliant has been recognized as a center of Doukhobor activity and a hub for spiritual, cultural, and social activities. Through collaborative efforts and community working together, much has been accomplished over the last century. Why, how else could it have been possible to build villages and bridges, sawmills and jam factories, roads and irrigation systems? Along the way, we have transitioned from leaders to honorary chairmen to executive directors. The Christian Community of Universal Brotherhood, CCUB, transitioned to an organization, namely the Union of Spiritual Communities of Christ, USCC, and this year, as has been mentioned, this year, 2018, marks 80 years since the USCC was formed. Common slogans that have threaded throughout this time are toil and peaceful life, sons of freedom cannot be slaves of corruption, the welfare of the world is not worth the life of one child. We have transitioned from communal living to communities to an age when we are constantly being driven to pursuits of self-interest. As with society as a whole, the 1960s proved to be a decade of great change and transition. under the guidance of Honorary Chairman John J. Verrigan, and in accord with his slogan, "Integration, not assimilation," he strove to promote the recognition of our unique Doukhobor identity within the unfolding multicultural mosaic of Canada. At every opportunity, they reaffirmed their stance for peace, and many USCC Doukhobor choirs were formed to promote the message of peace, love, and brotherhood. And so the question arose, how can we nurture our youth and culture? How can we unify the many Doukhobor communities in this effort? The need to provide a center, Dom, became increasingly evident. So Derek, if you can move on to the next slide. And even the next one. At the initiative of the Honorary Chairman John J. Verrigan and the Executive Committee of the USCC, early in January of 1975, a meeting was called at the Castlegar Doukhobor Hall for the purpose of building a community center at Brilliant. After much discussion, two committees were formed, a building committee and a finance committee. Much work and preparation took place to search for funding, federal and provincial grant applications, surveys, public meetings. A project of this size required letters of endorsement from local municipal governments, cultural associations, and elected officials. After some time, it became evident they could not rely on receiving any government grants, so they redrew the plans to economize and to begin construction as soon as possible. I love that photo of our late John J. Verrigan, Tiotalusha, and Babushka Markova, and you could see the plans and the vision for the Brilliant Cultural Center. The USCC organization had people with great abilities, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, doctors, lawyers, etc. If everyone put their combined efforts together, their center would be built. A public meeting was held in Grand Forks to inform the membership there of the plans to build a center and to acquire their endorsement and support. Yes, they would assist, both financially and by work in the construction. There was also much financial support and drive coming from Babushka Anna Markova and the USCC Kootenay Ladies Committee, who raised over $100,000. There were huge fundraising efforts being made, door-to-door canvassing, raffles, concerts. It can truly be called an all-Doukhobor undertaking. For the Kootenay area, the fee for the USCC members would be $500, as well as anyone wishing to become members of the center. The fee for Grand Forks would be $300. These payments were allowed in cash or labor. Now this was on top of their regular yearly membership dues. The only reason I'm mentioning this is that we found it interesting. In the 1970s, many young families were building their own homes, yet were committing to this vision. As far as dollars go, we did a comparative. $500 in 1975 is like $2,375 today. And if we, right now, were to come up with a plan to pursue something for our youth, for their future, how many here would be willing to put forth $2,400 per family on top of countless volunteer hours to see that vision through fruition? At that time, cultural was the new buzzword used to describe community centers in federal literature, as well as words like multicultural and mosaic in describing Canadian diversity. So their next question, what do we name this center? Through suggestions and surveys, here were the top 4 names: Brilliant Cultural Center, Doukhobor Cultural Center, Brilliant Doukhobor Cultural Center, Kootenay Cultural Center. Well, guess what the result was? It was decided the new center would be called the Brilliant Cultural Center. Why? It would serve the Doukhobor communities of the region in addition to complementing and welcoming other cultures. Its size would provide opportunity for all the various activities that make up the Doukhobor culture: choral groups, drama, oratory, crafts, preschool, prayer services, funerals, libraries, and weddings. What was the vision that motivated them? To preserve the heritage of peace for which our forefathers went to prison, exile, and gave their lives. Derek, if you can change the next couple slides. Okay, good, perfect, right there. And so, almost 42 years ago to the day, on May 18th, 1976, a sod turning ceremony took place. A mere 7 months after the start of the build, guess what? They had their first mass meeting in the center. And Derek, you can move on to the next slide. There was the construction. And the next one. Beautiful. So, albeit on plywood floors and unfinished, they had their first gathering prior to the official opening, which took place on May 21st, 1977. So tomorrow will be exactly 41 years since the official opening. In the brochure that was printed for the opening was the following sentiment: "May your stay in our center be fruitful in your deliberations and discussions. It is our sincere wish that people of peace and goodwill will utilize this facility for the betterment of mankind." The efforts of USCC members have been to achieve a relationship of mutual understanding, respect, and friendship with the society around them, so as not to assimilate into a cultural oblivion, but to integrate and live in harmony as part of Canada's multicultural mosaic. Choices and decisions and transitions have taken place to bring us to where we are today. I cannot help but reflect. All of the accomplishments of the past century have been through collaboration, community. We are stronger when we are together. What would have happened to us if an organization, the USCC, was not established 80 years ago? Where would we be today? What has the Brilliant Cultural Center done for us? Well, our culture would most likely not be in existence if we did not have an area to combine our efforts. It provides us with a space and place to hold our annual Union of Youth festivals. Where would we be right now if not here? It unites all Doukhobors in celebrating a unique heritage. Whether a Sunday Malenya is saying farewell to a loved one on their final journey, or a grand occasion like the Union of Youth Festival, fostering our children through preschool and children's Sunday meetings, this Brilliant Cultural Center has made it possible for several generations of Doukhobors to live and experience spirituality, culture, community, to face challenges, and has kept the legacy and dream of our forebears alive. For 41 years now, this marvel of architecture and functionability has stood as a symbol of a tenacious pacifist spirit and Doukhobor faith. It was built by the combined effort of communities and individuals who saw the value of preserving a rich legacy for their children and grandchildren. Could we see the final one? So I'd like to make a note here. The information that I've relayed, in particular to this Brilliant Cultural Center build, was taken from a very detailed 14-page write-up from the Finance Committee by Walter J. Popoff, who I saw was sitting there earlier, and the now deceased Nick Berrigan. That write-up was submitted in Iskra in 3 parts about 5 years ago, and a very interesting read. As well, I gained much information from Mike Seminoff, who was a huge lead with the building committee. When I approached both Mike and Walter, they went out of their way to provide the information. Спасибо большое. And now, here we are, 2018. It is imperative that we have sessions and discussions, much like experienced this weekend with the Spirit Wrestlers 2050 workshop, to come up with a vision for our future, for our youth, to lead by example. What does 2020 look like? A quote that was mentioned on Friday night. If not now, when? If not us, who? I had come across a profound thought earlier this year that has made a significant impact in my life. I think we're all aware of the importance and power of gratitude. And so the thought is, what would your life be like if you woke up one day to discover that you only got to keep that which you have given thanks for? You can only keep that which you are grateful for. So imagine, if we're not grateful for the food before us, it's gone. If we're not thankful for the brilliant cultural center, it's gone. If we're not grateful for community, gone. And so, with gratitude, let's take a moment to acknowledge, respect, and honor the Doukhobors and leaders of the past that are no longer with us for their insight, guidance, vision, and for their many accomplishments. Those people are no longer here, but they have left a huge impact. And we don't want to wait another minute to tell the people that are still here how thankful we are to them. To the generation that built this facility, to our grandparents and parents, for anyone here that was a part of the Brilliant Cultural Center being built, we ask you to please stand. I won't make you say anything. I won't make you move. I will not make you do anything. All we ask is that you can please stand. So that is anyone who had a part of this project. This means the women that did all the fundraising, all the volunteers, the families that donated financially, just stay standing for a moment. There's also many up there that are in the lights and sound. Andy, I can't see who else. They're all part of it. If you want to come down and be a part of this, and we can find replacements for your posts. Who was at the festival opening yesterday? You were. Who supported the youth at Talent Night? Those that were standing. Primarily, you did. Who promotes peace, justice, and environment by attending peace walks, interfaith vigils, International Day of Peace, lectures and conferences, and any and every event that takes place in this facility? You do. We are going to take a moment to create a bit of a circle. If we can have enough people just step around the choir and that, we just want to create they're going to come to the front so we could create a bit of a circle. I'm going to take a handheld microphone now, and if everyone can please rise if you are able to. To you, our elders, we respect you, we admire you, we honor you. We are grateful to you and for you. You are the epitome of a spirit wrestler. You model and exemplify true community spirit, service to others, volunteering. It is the foundation on which you were built. You have devoted your lifetime to progress peace. You have preserved culture.
You have preserved traditions. You have maintained our spiritual foundation, Maljanye, psalm singing. You have been a strong link in the chain. You have given us all of these gifts. What we decide to do with them is the next chapter. And so we are grateful to you, all our elders, if you will accept the word elders. We can't imagine where we would be if you were not standing here with us today. And we are so grateful for community. We thank everyone that has traveled distances to be here today, and for everyone that has made the choice to be here today. I can't believe I didn't cry through that. I cried for weeks at home preparing this. And always the tears were of gratitude. Anytime I think of the elders, it is with such amazing gratitude that Paul Sasso yesterday at the opening challenged us, and he said, "Who inspires you in your life?" The elders inspire me. You continually inspire us with all that you do. So in honor and tribute, we will all sing, Slava, Slava, Slava Тебе, Господи, because we know that you always have the vision of a higher power. So please accept our honor and respect. This hymn was written by Pyotr Vasilievich Verygin, Peter Lordly Verygin. The words in this song say we are all children of God, and we raise our voices of praise for his gifts and blessings. Пожалуйста, Liana. Спаси Господи. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. At this time, we would like to call all the reunion choir members the opportunity to assemble on stage, be it from the right or the left, and I invite Ren Shaman to come up and give concluding remarks as we await the anticipated finale.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us again this afternoon. We have a very special final act planned, so I strongly encourage you to stick around to see the end of the program today. This year, we decided to try a new format by replacing the traditional Saturday afternoon performance with a lighthearted opening ceremony, a social afternoon, and some informative tours. We decided to do this to allow people more time to visit and explore our roots here in Brilliant, and we feel that it was a massive success. Thank you to everyone who joined us yesterday afternoon. We talked about exploring our roots, and explore we did. Okay. Thank you to the Kootenai Men's Group, the Cultural Interpretive Society, to Kaya Larson, Irene Maloff, and Joe Sheveldave, as well as the volunteers at Berrigan Memorial Park who allowed for our exploration to take place and taught us about the rich history of Brilliant. As a part of our exploration this year, the Youth Council members interviewed Eileen Kuznetsov from the CIS, Walter Canagan from the Men's Group, and Mike and Mary Canagan about Berrigan Memorial Park. We invite everyone to read about these interviews in the festival booklet, which is still for sale in the front entranceway. We asked Mike Seminoff to reflect on the building of the Brilliant Cultural Center, as he was a member of the building committee. I'd like to take a minute to thank everyone who made this youth festival possible. Thank you to JJ and Auntie Laura for your never-ending love, support, and guidance. And we appreciate both of you and everything that you do for our council and our community. We would also like to thank all of the wonderful volunteers who we can always count on to set up the center for this weekend, as well as who work the lights, the sound, and the camera. We would like to say a huge thank you to Barry and Stephanie at Iskra for helping us spread the word about all of our endeavors, as well as designing and the printing of both of the festival tickets and booklets. That was a big one. Thank you to the USCC executive for all of your support throughout the year, especially with our little tryout of the trials, tours. A huge thank you to all of the choirs and performers who prepared such beautiful and rich programs for us to enjoy this weekend, as well as to the USCC employees here in Brilliant and in Grand Forks for all of their hard work. Thank you to the organizers of the Spirit Wrestlers 2050, as well as everyone who printed there for instigating some much-needed conversation. Thank you to the USCC Spiritual and Cultural Development Committee for all of your inspiration throughout the year and for the beautiful millennia this morning. And lastly, thank you to all of you who come out every year to all of our shows to show your love and support for our Youth Council. Thank you very much. Yeah. Spasiba, Gigi. So, thank you to everyone who made the 71st Annual USCC Union of Youth Festival such a wonderful success. We hope you all continue to explore your roots, culturally and spiritually. We hope you enjoy the final performance that we have put together.
Уважаемый Иван Иванович и все Веригина семейства, дорогие братья и сестры, dear USCC Executive Director J.J. Verrigan, all the Verrigan family, brothers and sisters. Once upon a time in the long ago, but very exciting 1960s, hundreds of Doukhobor youth found themselves in the BC Lower Mainland. In Canada's centennial year of 1967, some of them formed the Vancouver Doukhobor Youth Choir and performed at various local events at the USCC Christmas Eve program in Grand Forks and the Youth Festival the following spring. By the summer of '68, things got really serious when two young men from this choir decided that something bigger and better was needed. Jim Popov and Gordon Bondarev toiled for weeks and came up with a detailed plan for an organization that would reflect the full potential of the Doukhobor youth in the area. They named the new group Union of Young Doukhobors and even wrote a constitution. A mass meeting was called which enthusiastically adopted these proposals. The UID era was born. For the first time in Doukhobor history, youth had taken matters totally into their own hands, and in the heady atmosphere of the 60s, they experienced a surge of camaraderie, enthusiasm, and creative energy that had no bounds. Over 100 youth of all Doukhobor backgrounds got involved, and even some non-Doukhobor friends joined in. And boy, was the first UID season ever crammed with activity. Here's a partial list: weekly choir rehearsals and many performances, frequent mass meetings and activity groups, Russian classes, a grandiose UID concert staged in Vancouver with participating groups from the interior and Agassiz, and many new ideas from stage lights to displays and sales of Doukhobor literature, arts, and crafts, a UID bowling league with many teams, and a year-end award banquet with catered Doukhobor cuisine, regular publication of the UID newsletter, and a major UID role in the first ever All-Canada Doukhobor Youth Unification Conference in Tarry's, BC. A UID softball team that joined a local league and played a historic challenge game with the Grand Forks All-Stars in the '69 festival. A chartered bus trip to the ACRD 70th Jubilee of Doukhobors in Canada, held in Berrigan's Kamsack, Saskatchewan, with a choir presentation, a first ever Doukhobor parade float designed and built by UIDers, and a special talent concert with the first ever use of musical instruments at a Doukhobor cultural event. A traditional Vareniki, New Year's Eve, ski trips and skating evenings, and endless sing-songs at many house parties, and at the UID's official after-choir hangout, Dino's Pizza on Broadway. And all of this was only in that first UID season. In the second year, even more youth took part, and the UID era was well on its way. By 1972, 24 issues of the UID newsletter had been published, now with photos and a growing number of subscribers throughout BC. In 1973, it was decided the Doukhobor community was ready for a new magazine, which was called Mir, and the UID sponsored and supported its growth into Mir Publication Society, which published 17 issues of Mir magazine and 5 Doukhobor books, and ran a Doukhobor bookshop in Grand Forks. And the UID in Vancouver just kept on trucking. In 1976, the UID choir traveled to Montreal to perform at the Summer Olympics, the first such participation ever by a Doukhobor group. A scholarship fund for young Doukhobor graduates was established. While supporting Mir and Iskra, the UID continued to publish occasional newsletters for its members. And to help finance all these activities, the UID staged over a dozen spectacular spring concerts, some given special themes, and even taken on tours to interior communities. The UID zenith was reached with the truly grandiose 20th reunion concert performed to a packed house at this brilliant cultural center as a special Sunday evening part of the 1988 USCC Youth Festival. Some 125 UID members and alumni and their children took part in that historic presentation, and a similar number came out to a memorable reunion weekend campout on the Kettle River that summer. In the 30 years since, the UID has steadfastly continued its activities. In 1993, the UID choir sang for Mikhail Gorbachev. By the mid-90s, we became the Lower Mainland Doukhobor Choir, but the original UID spirit continued. To mark the centennial of the burning of the arms in 1995, an ambitious concert banquet was hosted in New Westminster. For the 1999 centennial of the Doukhobor arrival in Canada, events included a Pirahee fry, a Father's Day picnic, an amazing Centennial Harbor cruise on the MV Britannia, complete with a Millennia buffet luncheon and choral entertainment. The Father's Day picnic has since become an annual affair, as has the Christmas Millennia and luncheon, and today we continue our Doukhobor activity in the Lower Mainland, along with annual appearances at festival, support for the Doukhobor Benevolent Society and White Birch Manor, USCC representation from the coast, and much more. Highlights in the 21st century include our participation in the World Peace Forum in 2006 and joint concerts and a CD recording with the Victoria Group in 2007. This is only a brief summary of the first 50 years of the UID era, but we can look back with pride on all the achievements and contribution made to our overall Doukhobor legacy. That includes all of the pioneering firsts, the achievements of Doukhobor cultural life, the many friendships and relationships that were built, the stimulation of copycat groups in Calgary, Kelowna, and Victoria, and how the UID policy of inclusiveness helped lay a foundation for the historic reconciliation of traditional Doukhobor factions. Some of our members literally married each other. One such couple was there at the very beginning, and we're thrilled that Gordon and Vi Bonder are still active with us today. Yay! The Longevity Prize, however, goes to Howard Chutzkov, who's been active in more seasons than anyone else. He does dispute this, though. His late sister, Barbara Chutzkov, also holds a record as the first female chairperson in 1974 to 75, not only of the UID, but of any Doukhobor organization in Canada. It's rather fitting, therefore, that another longtime UID member, Lindsay Novokshinov, has this year become the very first female chairperson of the USCC Executive in its 80-year history. Celebrating a 50th anniversary, we naturally think of the past with nostalgic memories of events and people from days gone by. But yet no UID member in 1968 ever thought what would be in 50 years' time. Even at our 20th anniversary concert in 1988, I'm sure that none of us were thinking 30 years ahead. And yet sometimes we need to do exactly that. The Spirit Wrestlers 2050 workshop that has taken place this weekend is asking us to look forward 3 decades and help devise a strategy for a Doukhobor community for that time. Most of us on this stage will not be here by then, but we hope that our experience will help to inspire those who will. Remember, the UID pioneers were considered radicals in the 60s, and it may take something even more creative to carry our Doukhobor vision to 2050. Our 50th celebration shows it can be done, and we wish the youth of today all possible success in their efforts. Thank you. Our UID Lower Mainland Reunion Choir will sing 3 hymns, beginning with Bratya Vselikuita, led by Beth Novakshina.
Чужие
second hymn, Расскажу я всем живущим. I shall tell you all the story, led by yours truly, Bonnie Strukoff. Расскажу я всем живущим, как Христос мой пострадал, как под временем гнетущим на кресте Он умирал. Расскажу я всем живущим, как Христос мой пострадал, как Он всем к Нему идущим в мире радость обещал. Расскажу я всем живущим, как Христос мой пострадал, как Он всем к Нему идущим в мире радость обещал. Часто я не слышу зова и блуждаю, как овца, но меня находит снова Он с любовью Отца. Я в борьбе с грехом был ранен, я устал и изнемог. Взор был скорбью затуманен, Он же мне во всем помог. Я в борьбе с грехом был ранен, я устал и изнемог. Взор был скорбью затуманен, Он же мне во всем помог. Мимо смерти прохожу я много зол в пути моем, но пред ними не паду я и сражусь святым мечом. Он берет меня за руку и опять вперед ведет. Я не знаю с ним разлуку, я не знаю с ним забот. Он берет меня за руку и опять вперед ведет. Я не знаю с ним разлуку, я не знаю с ним забот. Our concluding hymn, Spasитель жаждет петь мой дух, Our Savior, O Savior, my spirit longs to sing, led by Lorraine Schutzka.
Петь мой дух, хвалу Твоих заслуг, хвалу Твоих заслуг. Хочу я
ваше внимание. Thank you for your kind attention.
Next year.
What a powerful finale to our festival. A cappella singing from the heart and soul is our Doukhobor treasure. We are indeed fortunate that we foster the love and culture of singing in our traditional way. We thank you all so much for all your contributions and attending this festival. Дай Бог всем доброго здоровья. We will now conclude an amazing festival with the congregational singing of Probil Uje Razluchная Chas. The time has come for us to part.
Razlučný čas,
Hello? Just as everyone's making their way out, a set of keys was found in the basement. It's a Honda, a key for a Honda. It was found on the display tables. So if anyone's looking for that, you can find it in the office.